Most people know Scooby-Doo. Or Scooby-Doo they? Not many Scoobaholics know the true story behind Scoob's seemingly unshakable resolve. In this video, I'll explore the 1985 smash hit, It's a Wonderful Scoob. A part of the larger opus, the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo. And I'm also going to be playing badminton and Roblox, So yeah, first, Vincent Van Gogh, he's like this, Doctor Strange guy. He's the last member of the Van Gogh family, and he's like a wizard. And that's, you kind of should know that. And then there's this little guy named Flim Flam, and he's a little bit relevant. He comes up later in the story. But aside from that, we're talking like classic, mystery gang, if you will. All right. And now, there are 13 ghosts of Scooby-Doo, and the whole thing was that Scoob opened up the box of the 13 ghosts of Scooby-Doo. He let them out. And that wasn't supposed to happen. It was really not what was supposed to be going on. And then Shaggy almost crashes the car. That wasn't great. And then they end up in Cuckoosburg after Scoob saves them. And they've stopped Time Slime from trying to slime the whole world. He wants to turn the world into slime. Because I think he'd like it better that way, because that's sort of where I think he feels most at home. You could probably psychoanalyze that. I've never done that, but you probably could. Because we are talking about, we're talking some pretty intense stuff here. And then, what eventually happens is Scoob gets sent into the past, and he sees, he sees the memory of, himself letting out the ghosts out of the box, because all the ghosts were in the box, and Scoob took them out. And then Vincent Van Gogh, Time Slime's when he sends him in the box, or sends him to see the box. He's like, oh, I let out all the people out of the box. This is all my fault. And then, first he sees his own birth, actually. Scoob watches his own birth. And there we get a little bit of insight. Scoob's first words were actually Scooby-Doo. That's why they named him Scooby-Doo. And he seems to come from a loving two-parent household. And as we'll find out, he has a nice suburban house. Yeah, but after he sees this himself, letting all the ghosts out, he's like, oh, I believe his quote is, I'm reaving, no more ghosts and monsters. So that was very sad. And he ends up going back to his childhood home, and Shaggy calls, and he's like, yo, Mrs. Doo, is Scoob coming back? And she says, no, Scoob's not coming back. And so that's a lot, you have to deal with when Scoob's not coming back. But then they put up a job posting for a dog detective. And apparently, in the Scooby-Doo universe, there is a Scooby-Doo TV show starring Scooby-Doo. So they need a new dog that can fill that slot. And it turns out that they were going to get Bone Crusher Bigelow. He was like the runaway favorite. But then Flim Flam, he's a little guy, and he was like, oh, who actually I want Bernie Gumsher. And Bernie Gumsher is sort of the lovable goofball of the 13 Ghosts, the Scoob extended universe, if you will. And because he didn't even know it was on his contract. But then Flim Flam's like, oh, I'm going to make you a star. But what ends up happening is all the children in the universe go on strike, or in America, not the universe. And then President Reagan has to make a statement about it, and he begs Scoob to come back. But I guess Scoob maybe was a little bit, I don't know, I think Scoob might be a Democrat or something, which, that's all power to him. But he didn't answer President Reagan's pleas for him to return. So that's just something you maybe should consider. And then Time Slime steals all his friends, and he's gonna like eat them or something, or I think he's gonna hit him with a knight, or like a hammer or something. I think he's gonna hit him with a big hammer. I don't remember, but I think he's gonna hit him with a big hammer. And then what ends up happening is Vincent Van Gogh's like, you know who could fix this? Scoob could fix this. So he takes Scoob to see the future without Scoob, because Scoob retired. So he's gonna show him he's gonna show Scoob what the future looks like with Bernie Gumpshire, you know, taking the wheel. And that's where Scoob ends up seeing, I think Daphne becomes a slave, but we're not there yet. Or Daphne becomes an enslaved person. I believe that's the correct terminology. Yeah. Okay, so, well, Scrappy Doo was sort of looking for a parental figure. That's important. And Scrappy Doo had been talking about how, you know, Bernie Gumpshire wasn't going to, fill that role. But then Scrappy, later on, during the, when the TV show's airing out to all the children of the world, we hear him calling, Bernie, Uncle Bernie. So he's taken not only Scoob's, you know, position on the show, but also his position as the head of the household. And so that's he's sort of been emasculated by Bernie Gumpshire, and that's important. We'll sort of get back to that later. And it's mostly notable, not because Scoob is insecure, but Scrappy doesn't have a good male role model. And so he ends up joining a gang, and his male role model actually becomes Time Slime, because Time Slime turns the whole world into slime. And Scrappy, he joins a biker gang with Flim Flam, who's the little boy. And they're big, they're into Time Slime. They're big fans. Even though he captured them and hit them with the hammer and turned the whole thing to slime, they're still big fans. And then the Scoob, then he sees Daphne. He's like, "Yo, it's Daphne," and she's like, "I'm actually a slave now." I don't know how to describe that to you. You're just gonna have to look at that, because she becomes a slave, and that wasn't cool. I wouldn't have done that if I were a Time Slime. Personally, I just don't think I would make Daphne a slave if that were me, but that's what Time Slime did. You know, that's a little bit problematic in my opinion. I wouldn't have wanted to be a slave, honestly. But she's happy about it, and actually the whole world is playing like a Time Slime theme song, and she starts singing along. So she's into it, you know. I think she might be a little bit freaky or something. Yeah, it was pretty sad. You know, the whole world's like post-apocalyptic too. I didn't say, because it's all slime, which isn't ideal usually. Yeah, but Daphne's a slave. And she tries to tell Scoob to become a slave, but he's not really buying it, because he's thinking, I don't really want to be a slave, you know. And then we see Shaggy, and Shaggy became like French and homeless, and a fashion designer. But he still admires Scoob, and what we see is that in this post-Scoob world, like apocalyptic world, there's a sort of there seems to be allusions to a former Rebel Alliance that Shaggy's the last member of, but also seems that there was at one point sort of a messianic cult that, you know, prophesied the return of Scoob. But Shaggy's so far gone, you know, he's gone insane. He's become French and homeless, which I think are two of the maybe toughest experiences out there. And so he doesn't have the wherewithal to recognize Scoob even when he sees him. So that was sort of heartbreaking. It's like when a grandma sort of looks at her son or whatever, or grandson, and she's like, "Yo, I don't know who you are," because she's maybe not all there, and they just have to put her down or whatever, you know what I'm talking about. But they didn't put Shaggy down. Actually, Time Slime shows up with his motorcycle gang, and I think they drag Shaggy away. I don't know what they do with him, but it was pretty sad. But then Scoob returns to the present with Vincent Van Gogh, and he's like, "You know what, dude? I think I'm coming back for it. I think I'm like hungry dogs run faster, dude." And Scoob was hungry, dude. We're talking about a hungry Scoob, and you know, when that's the situation, yeah, that sort of changes things. So that's just something you can't count out, in my opinion. But I'm not a Scoob expert. I'm not a Scoob expert, but I have to lock in. Let me get this point real quick. Oh. Yeah, this guy's a punk. Oh, jeez Louise.